Have you ever wondered why American singers and music dominate the international music scene? Well, in this video, we'll be discussing the origins of modern music, and if you stay to the end, we'll talk about why modern music is so heavily influenced and dominated by Americans. The blues. To answer this question, we need to figure out what the origins of modern music are. The origins of modern music can be found in the blues genre, which was developed by Black Americans in the Mississippi Delta and the Deep South in the 1860s. Blues music was an expression of hope, despair, and deep desire for change and freedoms that was prevalent in many Black American communities throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Blues music was born as a musical expression of human resilience and strength that told stories about love, loss, and hope for a better life. Blues music spread throughout America during the Great Migration of the early 20th century as millions of Black Americans left the Jim Crow South for opportunities in northern cities. Along with their lives, blues music changed as more and more blacks relocated northward. The music slowly started to change and evolve from the slow and simple lifestyle of the South to a faster paced hustle and bustle feel that was present in northern cities. Some famous blues musicians are B.B. King, Muddy Waters, and Howlin' Wolf. Jazz. From the different tempos, vocal melodies, and many other things that were born out of the blues, one of the most important aspects to come from it was the 12-bar chord progression and the blues scale, or the musical pitch that came from blues music. Chord progressions are basically how a series of musical notes are played together. The 12-bar blues chord progression was integral in the development of early jazz improvisation, and the majority of the earliest and most prominent figures in jazz were heavily influenced by blues rhythms, artists, and scales. At the turn of the century, musician Buddy Bolden took the grim moan of the blues and mixed it with the spirit of the Black Baptist Church and applied a ragged rhythmic feel inspired by ragtime music to his songs. The result was a new sound that was perfect for dancing and quickly caught the attention of young Black Americans in New Orleans, and jazz music was born. The reason why New Orleans was the perfect place for a genre to jazz to be born and to thrive was for two reasons. One, it's the largest port city in the American South and sits on the mouth of the Mississippi River, the largest river in North America. This meant that people, music, and ideas were always flowing through the area from around the country and around the world. Second, New Orleans allowed slaves to come together and play music, which most other cities did not do during times of slavery, furthering allowing the blending of cultures and ideas. This music spread like wildfire in the United States when jazz music went on tour throughout northern cities. But as jazz was spreading in the United States, war was spreading throughout Europe as the First World War raged on. While the United States tried to stay neutral, they were drawn into the conflict in 1917, sending their soldiers to fight in Europe. During this time, it was common for armies to have bands go with them to provide entertainment and boost morale. The most influential example of this is the 369th Infantry Regiment, or the Harlem Hellfighters Band. This all black band is responsible for introducing jazz music to Europe, especially in Germany, France, and Britain. Jazz took off because it was so different from previous classical European music styles, and because of its infectious dancing rhythm, and planted the seeds for the spread and dominance of American music abroad, as the latter two nations had a vast global colonial empire. Many of those black jazz artists kept returning to Europe after the war as a chance to earn money touring and because they were treated better than back at home. Jazz continued to take off during the Roaring Twenties as it spread throughout the country. Regional variances began to further diversify the genre. The economic boom and happy times of the 20s meant an increased demand for live performances and recorded music, especially during the Prohibition years. Commercial radio was also growing as popular media in many households, helping to break racial barriers. One of the variants that dominated this period was swing music. Swing music was known for its walking bass line, dance rhythms, and call and response patterns, and the big bands that played them, which often had 10 or more members and several different instrument sections such as the saxophone, trumpet, trombone, drums, bass, and piano. The swing era helped people get through the tough Depression years, and after the outbreak of the Second World War, American soldiers would take this music abroad. Popular artists from this era include Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, and Benny Goodman. World War II saw another massive war rage on in Europe, but this time fighting occurred in the Pacific as well. Once America joined the war, it sent its soldiers to fight again. The Army gave soldiers radios and broadcasted feel good American music for them to listen to as a way to boost morale and increase patriotism. Military bands would also come and play for soldiers who would continue to spread American music in Europe and the Asia Pacific. The most important influence that World War II had on global music, however, is its aftermath. Following the war, the United States took a much more direct approach in running the world as it became a superpower and no longer held isolationist policies. This meant that with the American military bases being spread around the world, American culture and its music would spread as well. A New World, the economic pressures of World War II, the 30% cabaret dance tax of 1941, as well as royalty conflicts which led a ban of recording new music, ended the swing era of jazz. But out of the swing era came the bebop era, which is the origin of modern jazz. More importantly, however, came the 1950s, and with the 50s came a rise of traditional pop, crooner music, and sentimental jazz singers like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Nat King Cole, and Bing Crosby. This era also gave birth to rock and roll, which is derived from blues music, with artists like Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, and Little Richard. With America fully committed to globalization and spreading its influence around the world, its music thus began to spread, influence, and dominate the world, even more so than its military. American dominance. Thank you for sticking to the end. Now, the big question: why does America dominate and influence modern music? There are several reasons for this, but probably the most important is that modern music originated in America. From blues to jazz to pop, rock, and hip hop, they all have their roots in the United States, so it would make sense that Americans would dominate because modern music is American music. Other countries can put their own twist on it and even perform songs in their own language, but at the root of it, the essence of the music genre is American, so it will sound American. Another reason is that the superpower that came before America was Britain, and since the language of the British Empire was English, most of the world was already accustomed to listening and hearing English things. So when America took over, it was a simple transition and a continuation of the entertainment language. So ironically, German aggression played a role in American music being mainstream globally. Secondly, during the height of the Cold War, the United States sent jazz ambassadors as Cold War diplomacy to help improve America's reputation about its internal race relations to counter propaganda put up by the Soviet Union that the United States was an oppressive and authoritative nation. Some musicians that were sent out as jazz ambassadors were Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Benny Goodman. These ambassadors were sent on tours to faraway places such as Yugoslavia, Argentina, Lebanon, the Congo, Iran, and Pakistan, and helped spread American cultures, ideas, and music to these regions. Thirdly, the culture of the United States tends to lead the world in innovation and is appealing to most. Culturally, the emphasis on experimentation, individuality, and creativity allows people to try many different sounds to try to find the next innovation or new thing that will take over the world. American prosperity and culture is often glamorized through its music and culture and is appealing to large parts of the world, making people interested in America and the products that come out of it. When countries open up to the world and globalization, they tend to adopt American culture, food, and music more than the other way around. Lastly, is the wealth of America and capitalism. American artists and record labels have the budgets and resources to market their music globally and are then able to keep revenue from sales and performances to reinvest in their music and business, continuing the cycle of American music spreading throughout the world. Thank you.